What is up, everybody? My name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. We are here in Week 2, the main slate of Week 2. A lot of crazy things going on around the league. Ja'Marr Chase stating that he is not negotiating with the Bengals on an upcoming contract extension anymore, or what he hopes to be an extension. Can't grant a number. He is done with that. Obviously, the horrible Tua Tagovailoa news from a couple of nights ago. And of course, we are 55 minutes away from football. So if you have any questions at all, I am here to answer them. I do want to direct your attention to the right side of the screen. Availability, opportunity, productivity, and opponent strength. Availability is somebody on the field. Opportunity, snaps, touches, and targets. Are they getting chances to do well? Productivity, what are they doing with those chances? And opponent strength, we want to capitalize on weak matchups. We will have more and more data as this season goes on. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. We are 13 subscribers away from 1,000. I do really appreciate the recent support. My apologies for not streaming the last couple of days. We are, of course, going to answer all of your fantasy football related questions before Week 2's action. And we have one in the live chat right now. We have Brian Pereira. How's it going, Brian? Stuck between Monty, James Conner, and ETN for an RB1 and an RB2. So if we look at the matchups, obviously David Montgomery in a very run-heavy offense had a phenomenal game. I actually lost one of my fantasy contests because of him a little over a few days ago now. That was on Monday. He is going up against the Bucs. That's a contest that is supposed to be a high-scoring one. We're seeing an over-under of 51.5. That's the highest total point projection of anybody. Rams and Cardinals. The Rams' interior line is not what it was before. The Cardinals are actually, obviously talking about Aaron Donald retiring, the Cardinals are actually favored. Oh, it swung. So the Rams are favored by 1 point. Cardinals were favored throughout the week. And then Travis Etienne for the Jaguars. Obviously a decent amount of offensive weapons. Brian Thomas had a nice week 1. Going up against a tough Browns team that has been known to stop the run for years and years and years. I am going to go Monty and James Conner. I think James Conner is in a pretty even keel matchup, a matchup that, yes, the Jags are favored by 3. Technically, the Cardinals were favored throughout the entirety of the week. It should be competitive, and he has been a very efficient runner the last couple of years. A nice change of tempo and a nice change of identity compared to what we saw not too long ago. And then Monty in a run-heavy offense with so much touchdown upside. I don't think there's ever a reason to not start him, especially in half PPR and PPR leagues. So, Brian, we're going to go with the first 2 options over ETN. We're going to jump in here and actually want to talk about a few players. We will use my own teams as case studies here. I believe I have the subscriber league up. Or I did. Oh, here, I got to log back over in. Yep, so if you guys have any questions while I'm logging in, feel free to pop those in the live chat. I will be glad to answer them for you. Here to help you out-research your fantasy opponent. Sorry about the random Despicable Me 4 ad there. I'm going to log into my account here. Hope you are all having a great weekend so far. It's been a long one for me, so I appreciate your patience and giving me a couple days to gain my bearings and get back on this thing. All right, let's see here. Okay, let's go in the subscriber league here. And do a little start-sit analysis of my own situation here. Awesome. I lost by 6. That's great. Oh, this is the wrong league. This is the wrong league. Apparently, I am rusty today. All right. So Jalen Hurts rushing upside against Atlanta. James Cook had his phenomenal day. Zamir White. That's going to be a tough one because the Raiders are likely going to be working from behind. They're like 9.5 point underdogs against the Ravens. And it's a tough rushing defense. Zamir White projected 10.7. I feel like even in a PPR format, that is generous. Tyreek Hill, not a great day, especially considering that for the future, he is not going to be working with Tua. At least we can assume Tua will be out for a few weeks. That was a scary, scary concussion, one we've seen time and time again now with him. Devontae Adams against Baltimore. I actually like this, even though the secondary for Baltimore is tough. Again, I think it's going to be a throw-heavy scheme for the Raiders. Chris Godwin's Mr. Reliable going up against a team that allowed a lot of points last week. Goddard, Mr. Reliable as well at his respective position. Warren, Addison, Chubb. A lot more injury-prone guys here on the sidelines. I'm actually going to go, especially against Minnesota, I'm going to go Jordan Mason over Zamir White here. We'll keep our PPR guys in so Chris Godwin can stay where he is. Juwan Johnson's kind of a security blanket. I like that a lot. And then, again, folks, if you have any start/sit related questions, feel free to let me know, and I will answer those. I see we've got a couple filing into the live chat here. I'll answer those here in a moment. Looking at the bench, don't see anything crazy. Roshan's a depth piece. Oh, we are definitely going Ravens against Raiders. Yeah, lots of backups here, to be honest with you. Dak's a good security blanket. Against New Orleans. Lots of weapons, but we'll stick with what we have. All right. And then we will go here and analyze anybody you guys are asking questions about. We have Juan Pulido saying, which two do I start? Full PPR. We have Mason, Connor, Kamara. Mason for sure taking over the majority of touches for CMC. I was terribly wrong last week. All of a sudden saying, okay, well, maybe, just maybe, I am going to assume that someone who's taking over a backfield for CMC on short notice isn't going to get 25 or 30 touches. And he had just that. So that is unfortunate. So I'm definitely going Mason, Connor in that game, and then Kamara against the Cowboys. I'm going to go James Conner over Alvin Kamara because that is, Juan, that's pretty much a game that is up in the balances right now. The Cardinals are 1-point underdogs to the Rams, but it should be competitive. I expect Dallas to take care of business against a Saints team that looked a lot better than they actually are this last week because they went in and beat up on the Panthers. Blurpy saying, do I drop J Love for Justin Fields for my backup QB? No, for a couple reasons. For one, they kind of fall under the same umbrella of it not being long-term. But for one, Jordan Love's not going to be out more than a couple weeks. It's looking like 2 to 5. He was actually doubtful and even questionable until yesterday. So I wouldn't doubt it if they're back with him this next week or the following week, week 4, aiming for that Minnesota matchup maybe. I don't expect him to be out very long. It was a sprain. And then Justin Fields has rushing upside, but if Russ is healthy, unless Justin Fields absolutely blows the doors off this thing and looks phenomenal, which he didn't, he did okay in week 1. I expect Fields to end up being a backup. So for your backup, no, let's just hold Love. Because if you drop him, someone will grab him off waivers right away. I don't think he would last very long in that area. Chess0516 says, Drake London, Amari Cooper, Jerome Ford, Brian Thomas Jr. We are going to start 2. Evan Ingram is out for the Jags. Blurpy has Lamar as the QB1. So there you go. You've got your rushing upside, but then you have a phenomenal pocket passer who will tuck it and run from time to time on third down and has pretty much all of his receivers returning after we didn't know much about the Packers pass-catching core. Now we do. So I would stay Love. If you want to take the worst player on your bench and get him off and then put Fields in and run with 3 for a little bit, that's fine if you really, really like the matchup. But Fields not expected to be the guy for the next few weeks. It's just whenever Wilson comes back, I believe. I don't think Fields has won the job over. So Chess, we're going between Drake London, Amari Cooper, Jerome Ford, Brian Thomas Jr. Tough one for me, right? Because Amari Cooper is in a horrible offense. Amari Cooper has Deshaun Watson throwing him the ball, and Deshaun has struggled mightily. Jerome Ford, on the other hand, I think we have to choose between one of those two guys because if they're not throwing the ball a whole lot, AN just got ruled out. AN? Tyler, I'm going to need some clarification there. I can go back on Underdog and see what's coming through. I'm going to go Jerome Ford. This is a team that knows how to run the ball. Jerome got a decent amount of touches, and Amari Cooper, unfortunately, is relying on Deshaun to look good, and he hasn't. We're going to go between Drake London and Brian Thomas Jr. along with Jerome Ford. Brian Thomas Jr. had a good week 1. Let's look at him, actually, between Drake London and Brian Thomas Jr. So we know Drake London in this offense was not humming. He only had 3 targets. Brian Thomas Jr., on the other hand, not so much, right? Like 4 for 47 and a touchdown. Looked pretty good. I'd be curious what the target share was. If you go to Fantasy SP, you can get that information. So it was Ingram and then Thomas. Wow. Nobody had more than 4 targets. That's very, very interesting. And then obviously the backs as well. Getting a couple targets, 3 for ETN. I think I'm going to go Brian Thomas Jr., even though it is against Cleveland, and Jerome Ford. So we'll keep the 2 guys in that one. If you want to swap anybody out, you take Drake London and put him in for one of those. Amari Cooper is last on my list, even though it is PPR. Tyler Sperry said Cooks are... Oh, A.J. Brown just got ruled out. Okay, good to know. I know that was hanging in the balances as well. Cooks or Reed. Jaden Reed will likely get the ball out of the backfield a couple times, but I don't trust any receiver on the Packers when Malik Willis is back there until proven wrong. Malik Willis has completed 32 passes in his career. 35 passes in his career, and he has run the... No. He's completed 32 passes in his career, and he's run the ball 35 times. There is not a lot of volume there. You know, I want to compare Malik Willis to Jordan Love here to kind of describe the drop-off. Let's say both of them are taking a test, right? The test is the NFL game. If we're going off experience, prior success, and just advanced football play, let's say we're in high school. Jordan Love is like a junior or senior already. Like, he's taking calculus, right? He's taking those advanced classes. Malik Willis is in like his second week of freshman year, still trying to find his locker. Malik Willis does not have a lot of reps. Malik Willis does not go through a ton of progressions. Malik Willis has not flashed anything. Malik Willis does not have a regular season passing touchdown, whereas Jordan Love had 30 of them last year with a receiving core that a lot of people were criticizing because it was a bunch of freshman, sophomore, and junior players essentially, and that's from a first, second, and third year perspective. So I don't expect any wide receiver to have a breakout game for Green Bay. If there was one, it probably would be Reed. I'm going to take Cooks in this week, a much better offense. Jacoby Myers or Jaden Reed for Raven Shoyo, my moderator. I'll make sure I give you that flag there. And again, folks, if you could leave a like and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. My name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. We are here to help you out research your fantasy opponent. All right. Yeah, Cooks or Reed, I'm going to go Cooks. A.J. Brown is down. Jacoby Myers or Jaden Reed, I'm going to go Jacoby Myers because, yes, it's against the Baltimore Ravens, a tough squad for sure, but I do expect the Raiders to be working from behind. So I do think it'll be a throw-heavy scheme. I'm going to go Jacoby Myers just this week. Chess0516, how does Hurts project without A.J. Brown? Would you start another QB like Mayfield or Stafford, who, interesting, okay, are going over him? Stafford going up against the Cardinals, Mayfield against the Lions, a team that actually gave up a lot of yards and points. I guess more so yards, right? Last week, they allowed the most amount of points to any quarterback. Stafford had a good game. I don't hate the Mayfield move here. You know, Hurts has the rushing upside, but Mayfield has pretty much the same weaponry he had last year. Obviously, with Hurts losing A.J. Brown, he'll have the rushing upside, but Mayfield still has Godwin. He still has Evans, the most consistent, and I will say just consistent, not the best, but the most consistent 1-2 punch in the league. Mike Evans has 10 years in a row, looking to make it 11 this year, of at least 1,000 yards, and Chris Godwin's 4 for his last 5 in that department. I'm going to go Mayfield, if anything. The Cardinals actually made the Bills look pretty bad the first half of last week. They stifled them. Eventually, things opened up, and the Bills were able to make a comeback. I am going to go Mayfield over Hurts at this moment. Cap for Life is in here. How's it going? Good to see you. Saying gentlemen with the patented dolphin there and the salute emoji. Raven Shoyo says, I'm so glad the Eagles went ahead and ruled out A.J. Brown. Some teams would wait until tomorrow. I mean, yeah, that saves us a lot, right? We can reference back to the Christian McCaffrey situation where it seemed like he was going to play all week long, relatively active in practice. The week went on. All of a sudden, he wasn't. And then about an hour before the game, I went live with an emergency live stream talking about how he wasn't playing. And then Jordan Mason, after the game, said he knew he was going to be the starter on Friday. So that's interesting. Not just from a fantasy perspective, but correctly reporting injuries. And now CMC is out for the second straight week. So murky waters over there is all I'm going to say. But yeah, Raven Shoyo saying some teams would wait until tomorrow. That would really lock us up from a fantasy perspective because now we're in the same situation pretty much. One of the best guys in the league at their position. Not as major with A.J. Brown, but it would still hurt. And you have one game to choose from. We are already at 4 likes, folks. I do appreciate you joining the live stream. My name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. We are here to help you out-research your fantasy opponents. We'll put a poll in the chat here. I'm curious how we're doing early on. Are you 1-0 or 0-1 in your fantasy league? If you're in more than one league, what are you in the majority of them? Just through that poll in the live chat right now. Would greatly appreciate some participation there. Any other fantasy football questions you guys may have, I am here to answer. All right. We could go in and research teams, look at target share like we did with Mr. Brian Thomas and a Jags team that didn't look that good the first week. Ultimately gave up a comeback to the Dolphins, who are now in a load of trouble with the fact that Tua might be out for the foreseeable future after a pretty scary injury. So not ideal there. All right, any start-sit questions, trying to swing some trades? I would go against making too many trades early on in the season unless you're trade baiting. What do I mean by that? Taking Isaiah Likely off the waiver wire and saying, who wants him? I'm good at tight end. And then you have essentially taken a surplus and filled somebody else's vacancy if they're panicking at the tight end position. So something to keep in mind there. Folks, I have to step away for just 2 or 3 minutes here. I will be right back. Do not go anywhere. If anything, take the time to put your questions in the live chat, and I will be right back. Thank you so much. All right, and we are back. I do appreciate you guys waiting for me. I won't lie. I kind of just pulled a Lamar Jackson there. Had to run to the bathroom. So thank you for waiting. All right, we got half of you 1-0, half of you 0-1. Raven Shoyo says 1-0 in all 5 of my leagues right now. That's even better than me, my friend. I had 2 blowout victories and two close margin losses. 1 by 6 points, 1 by 2. Raven Shoyo saying, what's everybody's upset of the week predictions? I will jump in here and let you know. I've got Saints over Cowboys. Ooh, I don't know about that. The Saints looked phenomenal, but we got to keep in mind who they played against. All right. Let's look at the slate right now. Colts, Packers, Browns, Jags, Raiders, Ravens, Saints, Cowboys. Giants are 1.5-point dogs to the Commanders. Rams, Cardinals, Steelers, Broncos, Bengals, Chiefs. I see a lot of chalk. I will not lie to you. What is the Seahawks-Patriots line? Seattle is a 3.5-point underdog. I could see the Patriots making that one ugly and actually winning it. Just a field goal. It's supposed to be a low-scoring contest. Their defense looked pretty good. It's going to be with Gerard Mayo at the helm. I could see that. I don't see the Panthers shocking the Chargers. I think the Colts take this over the Packers, especially with Malik Willis back there, someone who has thrown and completed 32 passes before today. I don't see the Bears taking down the Texans in their house. Falcons, Eagles. Maybe Falcons with the recent news of A.J. Brown, but that line is probably going to swing now. Mimsy says Josh Palmer or Jahan Dotson with A.J. Brown out. I'm going to go Josh Palmer. Again, not much target competition. Jahan is still going to have to compete with Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert. Whereas Justin Herbert, yes, it's a run-oriented offense, but when they do attack vertically, it looks like Josh Palmer is that guy. Quentin Johnston had an okay week 1, but yeah, I'm going with that. Got 7 of you in here. If we could get up to 10 likes by the end of the stream in the next 30 minutes, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you all so much for joining today. My name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. I am here to help you out research your fantasy opponent in 2024. Alex Ducharme says, quite the dilemma I have. My wide receiver 1 is Nico Collins and Olave. My options for flex are Allen Lazard, George Pickens, and Christian Watson. I don't like Olave, but not many better options out there. Well, I don't like Christian Watson with Malik Willis at the helm. It's likely going to be a very vanilla, run-oriented offense for somebody. Again, I can't state this enough, folks. I'm not making this up. We can go into Sleeper, and I'm actually curious, especially with deeper leagues, how many individuals have Malik Willis? 6%. Okay, all right. He's completed 35 passes in his career. He has tucked the ball and ran 32 times. I am not taking Christian Watson with the injury risk, with the inconsistency, because of a glimpse of greatness for about 6 games, the back half of his rookie year, with a run-oriented quarterback. I don't like it at all, especially considering this team paid a lot of money for Josh Jacobs, specifically in this first year. A few club options after that. I am cool with staying away from Christian Watson. So then that leaves us with Allen Lazard and George Pickens. Lazard, the secondary weapon to Garrett Wilson. Let's look at Jets target share. Again, this is something we are going to be utilizing a lot. If you direct your attention to the right side of the screen, it helps us determine that. Lazard was actually second on the team in targets, had 9. Nobody after him had more than 2. And they ran the ball a decent amount as well, despite being down. Tried to really take it to the 49ers on the ground. Lazard had a couple touchdowns. Okay, so Lazard or George Pickens. We'll go here as well. Just to get the early tendencies of Justin Fields down. What have we seen so far? And this will mean a lot more after 3, 4, 5 weeks when we're really starting to learn about these various offenses, the matchups, what's a good matchup, what's a weak matchup. Pickens led everybody in targets with 7, took 6 for 85. So I would say actually pretty close. We can't rely on 2 touchdown performances all the time, especially with someone like Allen Lazard, who's not the main weapon on his team, whereas Pickens is. It is the Steelers and Broncos. 36.5 is the over-under. That's the lowest total of the week. And for the Jets, they're going up against the Titans, favored by 4, 40.5. Also supposed to be a low-scoring game. Titans defense looked all right against the Bears. The Bears also just looked extremely rusty. I am going to go with... So, yeah, you got to go with Nico and Olave, especially considering the target share that those guys are owed. I know Stephon Diggs had a nice game week 1. I expect those two to be pretty compatible, even if Nico is the 2. For our flex, I am between George Pickens and Allen Lazard. And I'm thinking George Pickens. We just think long-term upside. Even what have we seen from each of these players? Lazard has kind of been dormant. I know, former Packer, but so was Randall Cobb. And it's just like, how much do we want to rely on someone who had a good year with A-Rod a couple of years ago as opposed to somebody in Pickens who is clearly the main option right now? So I'm going to go, Collins Olave will sit with that for your wide receiver 1 and 2. And Pickens will go with the flex. If you don't do Pickens, do Lazard. We're going to leave Christian Watson in what is likely going to be a very run-heavy offense out of it from a pass-catching perspective. Luis Acosta, Keenan Allen, Tank Dell, or Calvin Ridley. Full PPR. Allen healthy, so that is good to note. Rome Odunze had the MCL sprain. And then we are also looking at Tank Dell. That's a head-to-head matchup going up against a tough Bears secondary. I'd be interested to see where Jalen Johnson is. It's likely going to be him against Stephon Diggs. He'll shadow him or follow Collins or just pick a side of the field. And then Calvin Ridley on the Titans going up against the Jets. The Jets secondary is insane. The Bears secondary is insane, but CJ Stroud is a much more seasoned quarterback than Caleb Williams. I'm going to go Tank Dell here. Tank Dell, if not Keenan Allen. The Bears have had another week to build up their offense. You know, it was a rookie quarterback performance for the ages for Caleb Williams. He threw for like 92, 93 yards. I'm going to go Allen or Dell. I don't like that matchup for Ridley, technically being a secondary receiver at times behind DeAndre Hopkins, although I do believe he's better right now up against a tough Jets secondary. Stickers says J.K. Dobbins, DK, or Zach Charbonnet for flex. If we are talking PPR, I am between J.K. Dobbins and DK Metcalf. I know Kenneth Walker III dealing with injury. I am typically taking a wide receiver over a running back in PPR for obvious reasons. Dobbins did look good, and I do believe that the Chargers will take down the Panthers by quite a bit, and it might be a run-heavy scheme. I'm between Dobbins and DK. I'm going to leave Charbonnet out of it for flex at the moment. Thank you very much, Sticker. We have Alex Ducharme saying, Corey, I wonder what's your opinion on potential of trading CMC. I had him as my first pick, but now with him on the IR, is there any reason to keep him? He may be potentially out until after the Thanksgiving holiday. Alex, a couple ways to approach this. A, you take the long game. B, if you do trade CMC, I would wait a couple weeks. Yes, worse news may come out, but my opinion on players being out in terms of their value is this. The day they are announced as out, whether it's 1 week or 10 weeks, is their lowest value. Every day, every hour, every minute, every second that we get closer to their return, all of a sudden the value's up, and you can tell the person you're trading with, well, it's only a couple more weeks till he's back. Well, maybe it's a month till he's back. He might be back this week. I would deal CMC as we get closer to him being back. Now, don't wait all the way until he's almost back, like a week before, because then you just took up an IR spot and could have gotten value back earlier. I would deal CMC in a week or two. I would just let this cool off. A lot of people are pretty ticked. Unless you have someone who's very persistent on playing the long game and going after CMC and they're inquiring to you, then you do that. Max says, I don't know if I have the right people starting. Can you help me? We have, of course I can, man. We have quarterback is Dak Prescott. Running back is Chase Brown with the Bengals. Running back, also David Montgomery. Love it. Wide receivers are Chris Olave and Mr. Consistent in Mike Evans, who has 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Kyle Pitts on an offense that hopefully looks a lot better against the Eagles in primetime. Wide receiver, tight end. Oh, basically your flex spots. We've got Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins. Younghoe Koo is your kicker. Defense. Ravens. I love the Ravens this week for obvious reasons against a Raiders team that only put up 10. On the bench, we've got Deshaun Watson, Christian McCaffrey on the IR. Jamal Williams, Alexander Madison, Miles Sanders, Ladd McConkey, and Pat Freiermuth. I like where you are at. I don't want to mess with Deshaun Watson. Christian McCaffrey's obviously hurt. Jamal Williams doesn't get enough involvement in his current offensive situation. Alexander Madison is technically secondary to Zamir White, and Miles Sanders a running back in a bad offense, and he is also going to be competing with others, including Mr. Brooks. Ladd McConkey had a decent week. Freiermuth in an offense that wasn't humming, but they scored 18 on 6 field goals. I actually like where you're at right now. Montgomery, and then I'm assuming... yeah, that's before your bench, so you do have Allen and Hopkins going. Maybe if you want to go McConkey in, Hopkins out, that's the only swap I could really see. But I would say considering everybody on your roster at the moment, you're making the right decisions, my friend. Finn Strom says Montgomery, Ford, or Charbonnet. We are picking 2 PPR. We are looking for pass-catching upside. Let's look in here. All right, Montgomery, obviously the touchdown upside. Ford, the main guy with Chubb out. Charbonnet, the news with Kenneth Walker III. We've got 3 guys with lots of potential. I am curious how much action Charbonnet had compared to Kenneth Walker. So a few touches, had the touchdown. Kenneth Walker is out, despite having a nice week, so that's kind of a bummer. I see 8 of you in here. If we could get up to 5 likes real quick on the stream, I would greatly appreciate it. My name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. We are here to help you out-research your fantasy opponent. Somebody picked up Colby Parkinson. I like it. I like it. Kate Otten add too. All right, so let's just look strictly at matchups, right? Charbonnet going up against New England. Ford going up against Jacksonville. And the third one was Montgomery going up against the Buccaneers. We can look real quick here at strength of opposition. This is, again, not much data to go off of. But I'm curious how everything started in week 1. Who was allowing the most rushing yards? So let's do a little cross-referencing here. We're going to look at strength of opposition in a very limited capacity. Ford going up against Jacksonville. Where are the Jaguars? If I could find my tab. What the heck? Oh, rushing yard. Okay. All right. Jaguars allowed 81 rushing yards last week. All right, that is Jerome Ford's matchup. We have Montgomery going up against the Buccaneers. Allowed 138. And we have Charbonnet going up against New England. Again, that might be a game where the Seahawks, even though I do think that New England could upset today, we'll remove that. New England's going to be in a situation where if they lose, which they are the underdogs, they could allow they could allow a lot of rushing opportunity. Only 70 rushing yards allowed. We're going to go Montgomery, and then I do believe it's between Ford and Charbonnet. I'm going to go Ford. They've known it's his offense for the first few weeks of the season. This Kenneth Walker III news coming out pretty recently kind of thrusted Charbonnet in there. I'm going to go the same philosophy that came back to burn me with Jordan Mason. Hopefully it doesn't. I'm going Montgomery and Ford, Finstorm, based off of the matchup and overall situation. TS says, with A.J. Brown out now, do I still go James Conner over Smith in flex PPR? In this situation, I would not. Now we have Devonta Smith, somebody who I believe is thrusted into the wide receiver 1 role. Might be going head-to-head with Terrell over with the Falcons in prime time. But I am going to go with the pass catcher over the running back, especially considering that now Arizona is actually a slight underdog. Raven Shoyo says, leave a like on the stream, guys. Yes, please do. We're up to 6 now. If we can get up to 10 before we get off the stream in about 15 minutes, I would greatly appreciate it. Richard Ahmad says, Malik Neighbors, Zay Flowers, or Zach Charbonnet. We have PPR, and we're going to start 1. I am typically giving the tiebreaker to a traditional pass catcher. I will do the same here, especially since Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker III kind of had that thunder and lightning dynamic. I am going to assume that Charbonnet takes more on the ground. He will get more touches, more opportunity. But Neighbors and Flowers in a better offense. Neighbors likely going to be working from behind. Let's see how they did in week 1 from a target share perspective. Again, my name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. We are here to help you out research your fantasy opponent in 2024. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe. 13 subscribers away from 1,000. Wan'Dale Robinson got 12 targets, caught 6 for 44. This offense is so bad. Malik Neighbors, 7. Racked in 5 of them for 56. I do believe that Malik Neighbors and Daniel Jones are going to develop some type of connection. That was the first-round pick and an early one at that for the Giants this year. And I do expect the Commanders to take down a team they're favored over right now, especially being at home. I think that Jaden Daniels will take down his former teammate in Malik Neighbors, meaning likely a more pass-heavy concept here today for the Giants, working from behind. I'm going to go Neighbors over Flowers. Not by much. Neighbors and or Flowers, because Flowers is in a better offense. I would actually choose between those two, but we're going to leave Charbonnet out of it. One more with Ingram Hout. Do I go Hurst, Ertz, or Okonkwo? I am probably going Ertz or Okonkwo. You know, Ertz obviously a little older. Let's look at the usage situation here before I say anything entirely. We'll run a little numbers here. Ertz on Washington had a decent-ish first week. I mean, considering the expectations. Hurst. Almost forgot how to spell there. With the Chargers, kind of the same situation. Okonkwo did have a touchdown last week. But going up against the Jets, a very tough defense. I think we go Hurst or Ertz. And I am thinking Jaden Daniels utilizes his legs a lot more than Justin Herbert would. We'll go Hayden Hurst against the Panthers. We just saw the Saints put up 47 points on them. I would expect that the Chargers, who looked good in week 1, could do the same thing. So we're going to go Hayden Hurst. That's slim pickings in that category, my friend, but I think I like Hurst in that situation. 62% of you 0-1. Hopefully we can help out with that today. Remember, you can direct your attention to the right side of the screen for our 4 fantasy guidelines. These can be the pillars that you use in your leagues this year. Availability. Are they on the field? I mean, what a topic, right? Specifically with the news coming out of Kenneth Walker III, of Christian McCaffrey last minute. Now he is out for a prolonged period of time. Of Hollywood Brown. Talk about the impact that has on the fantasy landscape. Mahomes should still be fine, but all of a sudden, Rashee Rice, in my opinion, chalk him up as a 1,000-yard receiver this year and then some. He's looked great. He looked phenomenal in week 1. And that concept of target competition is only going to get better now. With Hollywood Brown likely out for the entirety of the season, they're talking mid-January. Fantasy's done at that point. For all intents and purposes, Hollywood Brown is done for the year. So he's competing with 35, 36-year-old Travis Kelce, who's looked fine, and that's honestly about it. I do believe Xavier Worthy as well. He'll be utilized in more of a Swiss Army knife role. I really do believe that Rashee Rice's stock just went up a ton. Again, on the right, opportunity, our number 2 role. As long as he's available as well. We've seen him be productive. Opponent strength, well, it doesn't really matter when you have a future Hall of Fame quarterback and one of the best quarterbacks to ever grace the earth in Patrick Mahomes. You're going to find a way to do well. So he just got a lot more opportunity, in my opinion. TS says, I'm just worried the Eagles won't need to throw as much on Atlanta. I need safe points this week. Let's go back to your question, TS. Still James Conner over Smith in flex PPR. So you're worried they go more run heavy. And maybe they do. I was kind of saying this before with the fact that Hurts has rushing upside. Maybe they just do more design QB draw type concepts. Whereas with Conner, you know he's a productive back. We can look at what he has done in years past and even in week 1. If you want a safer play, I would definitely say that's it. If you want to go upside and take a little risk, then we're going to go Smith because he is a pass catcher. I mean, we can't really complain about what Conner did, right? You can nitpick and say he wasn't very efficient, but the pass catching upside's there. In half PPR, he had 17.8 with a score. There is a lot to like about James Conner. There has been a lot to like about James Conner. I used to be critical of him because he was inefficient for a short period there, and then boom, last year, 5 yards a carry, 1,000-yard rusher for the first time in his career, and a ton of touchdowns. He runs hard. He's someone that gets utilized in and around the goal-to-go situations. I'm going to go James Conner. Yeah, if you want to go safer, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Thomas is in the chat saying, trade dilemma. I'm giving up James Conner and DJ Moore and getting Tyreek Hill. I mean, it's quite the time to trade for Tyreek Hill if you're looking for value, right? I am curious if the Dolphins go and get somebody that is not their current backup, Skylar Thompson, I believe his name is. I'd be curious if they go and get, like they had Mike White at one point. Go get Ryan Tannehill. Go get a long-term backup because Tua, I hope he is okay. I honestly hope he stops playing football. So this kind of alleviates this point, but he hasn't been available. And Tyreek Hill's going to have value regardless, but we need better quarterback play. I would say it's a good time to buy low on Tyreek. I would argue you don't even need to give up that much considering the QB situation. You have some leverage knowing that Tua Tagovailoa is going to be out again for a bit, at least a bit. You know, James Conner and DJ Moore. I'd be curious what the rest of your wide receiving core looks like. Maybe we can kind of play around with that concept. But yeah, now's a good time to buy low on Tyreek. We just need a better answer at quarterback when Tua isn't there. Am I making that up? I believe it's Skylar Thompson. Skylar something. Yeah, Skylar Thompson. 8 for 14, 80 yards. He appeared in the playoffs a couple years ago when Tua was out. We just need someone with more miles on him. I mean, this guy's completed twice the amount of passes as Malik Willis, so I guess congrats there. Yeah, we need a better QB situation. That's why I don't think you have to give up that much for somebody like Tyreek. Okay. Raven Shoyo says Ryan Tannehill, Miami reunion. It would make sense, right? Go get the free agent. You don't have to give anything up for him other than cold hard cash. It's going to be a contract. You don't have to trade. I wouldn't hate that. Yeah, Ryan Tannehill would make sense. Or if they want to go and get like a Jameis Winston or trade for Joe Flacco, who's on the Colts right now, just get a better situation going on in the quarterback room. Thomas says, team consists of Hurts, Pacheco, Connor, Kupp, St. Brown, Moore. Oh, Moore is your third. Okay, I'm fine with that then. Kittle, Flowers, benches, Dobbins, Javonte, Singletary, Shakir, Lockett, Chubb on IR. If you haven't offered it yet, I would try Flowers and Connor. You know, it might not go through, but I would argue you're not really lowballing them that much considering that Hill is in a tough QB situation right now. Raven Shoyo says it was reported that Tua is already ruling out retirement, which is a little unfortunate for his health. And Mike McDaniel told Tua that he is the QB1 for his family. And, you know, that's a big humanizing aspect when you see somebody go down and their hands are stuck in a certain spot. They don't look healthy. Yeah, and we've seen this happen over and over again with Tua where he's unconscious on the football field. I hope he hangs it up. I hope he changes his mind because at this point, it's getting really scary. Like we saw what happened with Damar Hamlin. That was completely different. That was a heart issue. He was hitting just the right spot at just the right point in his rhythm or whatever. Tua has had multiple. I think this is the third scary injury now. He had 2 over the course of a short period last year. I just hope they get a better backup for him. I really do. I see 9 of you in here. My name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. We are here to help you out research your fantasy opponent. Ask me any questions. These last few minutes, a mad dash to kickoff, and I will be happy to help you. Jay says, start 1, Garrett Wilson, London, or D. Smith. So, yeah, going back to Thomas, let's go with Moore and Connor. Maybe even Flowers and Connor, to be honest with you. Your wide receiver 3 or 4. Tyreek Hill's value is taking a dip, and people need to recognize that. Jay says, start 1 between Garrett Wilson, Drake London, or Devonta Smith. I am going to go Garrett Wilson based on the target share, based on the fact that I do believe the Jets have a much better matchup this week than they did against, I would argue, another Super Bowl contender coming off their performance last year in the Niners. I'm going to go Garrett Wilson over those other 2. Elijah's in here. How's it going, Elijah? Saying, yo, we've got Terry McLaurin, Austin Eckler, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Rashid Shaheed, or Wan'Dale Robinson at the flex spot. Now, Wan'Dale, interestingly enough, had 12 targets last week. Rashid Shaheed, a Swiss Army knife, who I do expect to thrive this year with the Saints. He's kind of one of my players to watch for this year. Austin Eckler, a pass-catching back. Could be the best friend of somebody like Jaden Daniels. They're going up against the Giants, who do have Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns, but the Giants came out flat again in week 1. McLaurin, the wide receiver 1 for Daniels. Jackson Smith and Jigba working behind DK, working behind Lockett, although I do expect him to take that wide receiver 2 spot over Lockett eventually. And Shaheed going up against the Cowboys. I am leaning pass catcher, so we're going to leave Eckler out of it. So now we are between Robinson, Shaheed, JSN, and Terry McLaurin. I do expect the Commanders to be working ahead. So yes, Eckler will get more touches, but I expect those to be on the ground. So we've ruled out McLaurin and Eckler. So we're between JSN, Shaheed, and Wan'Dale. Probably Wan'Dale Robinson or Rashid Shaheed. Teams that are working from behind with pass catchers who have proven to be effective. That's probably where I'm going, between Wan'Dale, Rashid Shaheed, and JSN's on a team that's favored. Still trying to see what happens with that passing offense. With Shane Waldron gone, it's looking a little different. Elijah, saying PPR. I'm going to go Rashid Shaheed, Wan'Dale Robinson, or Terry McLaurin. We're going to leave Eckler out of it due to the fact he's not a pass catcher. And JSN, squad's going to be working ahead, negative game script. You can kind of say the same thing with Terry McLaurin, negative game script, but we want to go with the pass catcher. I'm really between Shaheed and Wan'Dale. Riles says Murray or Daniels. Kyler Murray going up against the Rams, and Jaden Daniels going up against the Giants. Daniels with the rushing upside. Obviously, Murray as well. Daniels expected to win. I think the Rams are favored by a point. That's a close one. I think I'm going to go Kyler over the rookie at the moment. El-Katab Mizyed says, should I start Ja'Marr Chase? Yeah, I would start Ja'Marr Chase. Depending on who else you have on the lineup, I still feel like he is a top 10 receiver. He has come out and said he's not negotiating anymore, which is kind of a scary statement. Like, is this guy going to hold out, ask for a trade? We haven't heard anything. So, yeah, I would say Ja'Marr Chase is startable in most situations. Kyler or Daniels, that's still bugging me. Daniels has rushing upside too, and he has the weaker matchup. So, actually, Ryle, I am going Jaden Daniels here. I do expect him to beat up on the Giants. I think Kyler's got a bit of a bigger challenge against a Rams squad that has been a winning football team the last few years. Maybe he works from behind and proves me wrong, but the passing offense didn't look great. He wasn't fully utilizing Marvin Harrison Jr. quite yet. Week 1 is weird, but again, no preseason, so how long is this weird lull going to be going on for? Not too sure. Elijah saying, you won me my league last year. I'm happy to hear that, man. I just gave suggestions. That's all you. Like, you did the work. You pressed the buttons. You ultimately made the final decision, but happy to be a resource for you, man. Our fantasy guidelines, again, folks, we have availability, opportunity, productivity, and opponent strength. Availability, are they on the field? Opportunity, do they get touches? Do they get targets? Do they get snaps? So again, kind of are they on the field? Productivity, what are they doing with those opportunities? We are sitting between metrics like yards per carry, yards after contact, yards after catch, the yak, yards per reception. Are they a high catch rate type of receiver in the 70, 75, 80% range? And then opponent strength. We want to capitalize on good matchups. One of those being the Panthers and Chargers. I expect J.K. Dobbins to have a good week. The Chargers are favored by a ton. You could say the same thing about the Ravens going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. I think Derrick Henry will have a phenomenal week. He's usually a starter anyway. But again, when you see heavy spreads like 9.5, 10 points, somewhere in that range, more often than not, we're going to see it go that way, if not worse. We're going to see that team that is heavily favored out in front running the ball. The Ravens are already a run-heavy team. So, yeah. Ryle saying, thanks, boss. I will take your advice. No problem. I think they both have good weeks, to be honest. Murray and Daniels. Rush-heavy QBs. Those help us a lot. I think Daniels should be able to torch that Giants defense. The team in general has been struggling, and even if the Giants did invest in their front seven, they've got Dexter Lawrence, they've got Brian Burns, they've got Kayvon Thibodeau. I think it's tough for a defense to continue to thrive when the offense can't hold the ball for a prolonged period of time. Then you get the hands-on-hips type of stuff, and yeah. All right, folks, lineups are locking. So I do appreciate you jumping on the stream today. Raven Shoyo saying it's bittersweet to see J.K. Dobbins balling like this. Hopefully he's healthy all season. I agree, man. He's been healthy for 9 games in the last 3 years, missed all of a year, played just 1 game this past year. I really hope he is healthy. He doesn't look as fast. The knees are clearly damaged, but he's such a smart football player. I've been talking with my coworker, Wally, on this. He was on the stream on Tuesday. We might have him again this week. We will see. It is so refreshing to see someone who was so dynamic in college, pretty much right after Ezekiel Elliott, and hasn't really had a chance for an entire year since his rookie year to go out there and thrive in a run-heavy offense. Harbaugh's taking good care of him, it looks like. Bryce saying Ayuk or Olave in PPR. Olave in an offense that's likely going to be working from behind against the Cowboys. Ayuk going up against Minnesota. I am going to go Ayuk. I know that Olave will likely be in an offense that's working from behind and it'll be more throw-heavy, but Ayuk's in a way better offense, and CMC is not there. Jordan Mason still got a lot of got a lot of touches on the ground, but I'm going to go Ayuk. All right, lineups are probably locking at this moment, folks. We are 5 minutes from kickoff. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Remember, availability, opportunity, productivity, and opponent strength. I am here to help you out-research your fantasy opponent in 2024. Make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe. I think we are 13 I'm pretty sure we are 13 subscribers away from 1,000, so I do appreciate your recent support. Oh, we've got a lot in the chat. I want to make sure I answer these real quick. Rice or Wilson, PPR. I am going to go Garrett Wilson. I do think Rashee Rice is obviously the #1 target. Still does have to compete with Kelsey, but Garrett Wilson dominated the target share and has a much easier matchup against the Titans. Raven Shoyo says, W stream, good luck everyone. Blurpy is in here. Neighbors or ETN, PPR. I'm going pass catcher, even though it's a bad offense. I do expect the Giants to have to go throw heavy since they're working from behind. Leaning Neighbors, no clue why. That's why I'm leaning Neighbors. I'll agree with you on that one. All right, folks, remember those 4 fantasy guidelines. I hope you have a great week 2. We will be streaming 4 to 5 times a week as per usual throughout this upcoming week. If you have any questions, you can ask them in this video, in any YouTube video, or in the free Discord. I appreciate all of you for joining this stream, and I hope you have a wonderful week 2. Let's go win some games.